I'm Scott Allen Miller. This is my life living in Latin America. I'm an expat and have been for the last 10 years, and now I'm also an immigrant before anyone tries to jump in with that. Those are different things, and we have plenty of videos that go into the exact differences if you're interested. For a lot of my potential new audience, you're coming from North America, most likely, and suddenly there are a lot of reasons why you may be considering the path to becoming an expat. What do you need to do? Does it apply to you? And so forth. We're in mid-January, and an awful lot is going on, whether it is the exciting, dynamic world of American politics? Is it the Canadian political scene falling apart, or is it that possibly the part of the United States that you're in is on fire right now? There's a lot going on that may make you think that staying in North America may not be the best thing for you and your family long term. Maybe just short term you're looking at possibly being a digital nomad, moving abroad and getting some time to do something interesting. Maybe there's just a lot going on or a lot of unknowns back at home, and you'd like to take this chance to go see a little bit of the world with total plans on coming back in the future, which would still be an expat, at least temporarily. So this is an opportunity for an awful lot of people to consider what is out there and what they could do. And we have a lot of information here on the channel for people who are looking to do that. But I want to give some encouragement and some starting points for people who, as many of you probably are, suddenly thinking about this in a very prescient way that you didn't previously. So many people in January are realizing that maybe this is the right time for them to be exploring things abroad. So we're going to talk about that and where you can go, how you can get started right now today to take immediate action right after that bump. In 2025, we have a lot of reasons why you may be willing to look suddenly at the broader scope of where you could live around the world. And I totally understand. As someone who did this 10 years ago, basically we saw the writing on the wall that the opportunities abroad were probably going to be better for us and our family, but whether it's lifestyle or career opportunities or whatever, it just seemed like the right choice. And having done that all that time ago, we started planning in 2011 for the specifics of our move abroad, and finally were able to completely action it by 2015, a very long planning process that I do not recommend for most people. But in doing that, we really feel that we made some great decisions, and it really has been the right thing for our family. And I certainly encourage those of you who are at least mulling over the idea to give it some serious consideration and realize that it doesn't need to be a scary thing. It doesn't have to be a hard thing. It is something that you can do, and probably pretty quickly. If you're coming from the United States especially, this will also apply to Canadians, but not with the same sense of urgency. If the one thing you have to be able to do anything like this is you have to have a passport. No matter what you're doing, even if you're not considering being an expat at all, but you do want to have an escape plan should anything go wrong, and it doesn't mean having any lack of faith in your own government or country or anything like that, simply being well prepared, you should always have a passport. There's no person who shouldn't have a passport always ready to go. That's just basics of being an adult, but the average American doesn't have one, and many Canadians do not have one either. These are things I highly recommend. No matter what, if this is the only takeaway you get from this video, go out there and get your passport. You have children, get them a passport. You don't want to be held back because those documents are not being issued. I have friends who are from countries that stopped issuing passports for a number of years, and it was a disaster for them. Their flexibility, their options, their career opportunities just evaporated immediately because they couldn't get those documents. So that is something I encourage you to do, especially in the United States, where in general these documents take a very long time, and now they're taking an extraordinary amount of time because so many people are having this thought right now. Whether it's just being prepared or actually planning on taking action, they're getting those passports, which is great, but it means that those of you who don't have one yet are looking at not delays of a couple weeks, but delays of a couple months at this point, and the potential is that it could sprawl out into years. Most countries you can get a passport in a day or two. The United States is not one of those places. Things move much more slowly in a very convoluted, complex, and committee-based system like the United States. There's just a lot of individual moving parts that a lot of other places don't have. So definitely get started on that as soon as you can. Assuming you have passports or will have them in hand at some point, then actually moving abroad is incredibly simple. And I know a lot of my regular audience have heard this a lot of times, but with this being January 2025, there's so many new people who are stopping by the channel because they're realizing that maybe they need to have some, maybe not plans to move abroad under their belt, but they need to have a few options so they can feel that comfort of, just in case, what would I do? That's what we want to give you. We want to give you that really good sense of you don't have to feel trapped. And actually, for a lot of people, especially US and Canada, That feeling of being trapped, I can't move abroad, or you think you can't move abroad, makes everything feel so much worse. But if you knew how easy it was to move abroad, it actually makes staying much easier. It's one of the powers of an expat. It's easy to do a lot of things that feel kind of scary to most people and realize they're not scary at all, because you have complete flexibility to change what you're doing at any time. You're not trapped anywhere. You're not making a one-time, lifetime decision that you can't reverse. Not at all. You're simply making a choice to go on vacation and not come back until some indefinite time in the future, which might be a few weeks, it might be a few years, and it might be a few decades, and that's okay. But if you have that power, you have that knowledge of what to do, you have that passport in your hand, and you know that at any moment you could just get on a plane or get in a car and be gone, it makes staying where you are and seeing how things work out that much easier and less stressful. So I encourage you, even if you would never actually consider it, or you're pretty sure you would never consider the option of moving abroad, that maybe do this anyway, just so you and your family have this extra layer of protection that's very real, but also this layer of comfort that most people don't really consider. I think it may pay off for you in the long run. That sense of security is a big deal. Plus, you can always use having a passport, having those plans to take a vacation at some point. Why not leverage it? Doing abroad vacations are a really great way to learn more about the world, expand your horizons, and do something really fun, and often save some money too. So it's a really great thing to have for a lot of reasons. If you've never moved abroad in any way whatsoever, it's easy to believe and feel that it must be a really hard thing to do. And of course, it's not as easy as just staying home. That would be pretty silly, but it's not as hard as people imagine. It's often simply a matter of taking some luggage, packing up the necessary things that you need to have. Maybe you should do some planning and just think about, if you were to do that, what would you need to pack? Think a little bit. Do you need a laptop? Do you need a phone? Do you need to have some cash ready to go? Do you need to have, toothbrushes and toothpaste and those kinds of things? How much would you need? Be prepared a little bit. But beyond that, being able to pack quickly, and of course, those who travel a lot, we pack really fast. I once did a 2-week trip to many countries, like 8 countries, with my family in a car. My wife packed in an afternoon with no warning whatsoever. We're used to it. That's easy to do. But if you've never done it, there's a lot of things you may not think about, like that toothpaste thing. And of course, you can buy toothpaste and deodorant wherever you go. Lots of hotels are going to give you a free toothbrush, but having your own just makes everything that much simpler. And what if you end up in a place that doesn't have one, or the stores are closed when you get there? Just the more prepared you are, the easier life is. But it's easy to think that moving abroad means that you have to do a lot of paperwork ahead of time. You've got to think about all kinds of factors, and the reality is you don't. For some places that you may want to go, that could be absolutely true. There's every possibility that you would like to move to a place that's going to require a lot of paperwork and approvals and time to wait for things and visas and all that. Absolutely. Those places exist and are quite common, and many of them are places that people are very desirous of going, being that's why they have that paperwork, because if they didn't, people would just flood in at a moment's notice, and there would be tons and tons of people overwhelming their systems. But for a lot of places that you can go, you don't need those things. It's just an assumption that people have that you will need them. There are many very nice, very interesting, very safe countries around the world that will take Americans and Canadians at the drop of a hat without any prior approval, without any paperwork, without any forethought. And some of those that are well worth considering include here where I live in Nicaragua. Panama is a very common choice. And of course, Albania in Europe, and in many cases, Thailand, which is one of the reasons that it's such a popular expat location. These are places that you can generally go, simply get on a plane and go, and not have to really worry about anything ahead of time. You may need to worry about some paperwork once you're there and you decide to stay a long time. Absolutely, but those are generally things you can do inside the country, or you're able to do simple things like border runs to reset your visa so you can stay for a really long time that way. They all vary a little bit, but they're all places that you can go to and figure out what you're going to do with your life once you're on the ground. Some of you are not able to do that. I totally understand, especially retirees or people who are disabled. Maybe you have a lot of family animals, pets that you need to bring along with you, and those things make planning very important. There are those cases, absolutely. But for a lot of people, you have the flexibility to just hop a plane and move to a new country, and I encourage you to at least have the ability to do so. Nicaragua is a prime example, and that's where I live, not because of this reason. I live here for a lot of reasons that I think it's a great place to raise my family. But for those of you who are worried about becoming expats very quickly and you don't know where you can go, Nicaragua represents a really good first step, a place that is very low cost, very welcoming to expats coming from North America. You don't need any paperwork ahead of time. You can stay for quite a long time before you have to worry about anything, 90 days before you even have to tell anyone, and 180 days before you'd even have to set foot outside of the country. And if you want to stay indefinitely, that path is almost always really, really easy and open to you. But it's also incredibly safe. So coming here is one of those just easy places. You don't have to worry about your security. You don't have to worry about your cost of living. All those things are going to improve over where you're coming from. So coming to Nicaragua, sight unseen, knowing nothing about it other than maybe practicing a little bit of Spanish on the flight, is going to be one of those places that you can come to and simply get your bearings and start figuring out what you want to do from there. I'm not saying this is the ultimate place to go, but it kind of is. But as far as coming from North America, it's hard to get much closer. Of course, you can also come to Guatemala, El Salvador, Costa Rica, Panama. This entire region is very easy to come into and get started. Nicaragua is just the lowest cost and safest in general across that region, with the most options to stay long term. So it's easy to come here, maybe rent, you could stay in a hotel, you could rent an apartment, give it some time, and make your decisions from there. And that's really the key that I want to get to in this video. Not Nicaragua specifically, but use Nicaragua as an example. But of course, I've done the same thing in Panama. You can do it very easily there. There's plenty of places in South America you can do it, and plenty of places in Europe and Asia. The world has options nearly everywhere. But realizing that this is a process you can do, finding a country like Nicaragua or Panama where you can come without any prior approval. You know it's safe or safe enough. Nicaragua is safer than where you're coming from. Panama is safe enough. It's pretty safe. Low cost of living. Nicaragua is super low. Panama's moderately low, and that you're able to stay for quite some time. Panama, automatic, 180 days. Nicaragua is not automatic, but it's essentially automatic. You have so much time to come and stay and make decisions. I don't like living outside the country I came from. I want to go back. That's a really important thing to realize really quickly. You want to know that sooner than later. You don't want to commit huge amounts of your life resources and huge amounts of time to living and adjusting to a new place when you don't know that just being away. We're not saying you don't like the place you went to. You may have chosen the perfect place to try out, but it may be that your home country is the right place for you. That's a really common thing. Only your home country is where you grew up. Only your home country has your childhood friends and neighbors and family members, probably, right? That's very, now for me, I do have family and, childhood high school friends who have moved here. So for me, it's both places. But for most people, you only get those things in your home country. So leaving those behind is a big decision. It's not a big decision when you realize it's not a permanent one. You're just trying out a new place. If you miss those people too much, you find that they're not willing to visit you, or it's too hard for you to visit them, or you miss having that direct communications or being able to go to the pub with them on the weekends, whatever, you just move back and you just consider it an extended vacation while you figure things out. That's absolutely fine. A lot of people, if people were honestly giving this system a try, they would find that quite often that is the answer that they come up with. So don't be surprised if that ends up being your answer. But finding that out is important. And that's why you want to come to a country that doesn't require a big commitment and allows you to move in very quickly and make those determinations. Now, for a lot of people, if you came to Nicaragua, obviously, one group is going to be like, I just want to go back home. It's clear I miss where I came from. I might love Nicaragua, but I want to go back. That's great. Some people are going to come and say, I don't ever want to look anywhere else. This is perfect. I want to stay here. That's great. And a lot of you, probably the largest group, would come and say, okay, I like living abroad. I like being an expat. This is working out okay, but this isn't the right place for me. And that's fine too. Then you can take the time while you're safe and low cost of living and learning how to be an expat to gather information about which places make sense for you to try or to move on to next. Take that time, do that research, and in many cases, maybe you do need to apply for a visa. Maybe you do need to do some planning of forethought and have that under your belt and be ready to go there and have approval and all that. Great. What if the place you want to move to is France? France is a very popular choice for Americans to move to for a lot of obvious reasons, but you can't just do it without any planning. So coming to some place like Nicaragua gives you time to save money, to learn about being an expat, to take advantage of getting out of whatever country you're coming from and do all those things. And if you're worried about safety or whatever, that you get that safety, right? You get away from the problems that you're trying to avoid, or you get to learn about being an expat while you do that research and learn about the next place and get approval for the next place. And that's really, really powerful. Then when you're ready to go to France, you're in the best possible position to go there, and you're able to do so as quickly as possible. And then again, if you move to France and you decide, oh, you know what, we did all this research, but ended up not being the right place, then you're that much more knowledgeable, and you're aware that you're not tied to France. You're not stuck there. You make that decision and say, this ended up not being the right place for us. You're ready to move on again, or to move back to the country that you originally came from. You have that power. And so often people are just stuck fearing that they once they make a decision, they have to commit to it and it has to be for the rest of their lives. That is not at all how it works. That's not how anyone who's an expat works. A lot of people end up in a place, they've done enough research that they do want to stay there for the rest of their lives, and that encourages others that they have to do the same thing, but you do not. Plenty of people go and just are digital nomads. They move every 2 weeks or 2 months or 6 months or whatever. That's fine too. A lot of people do it because they just love being on the move. They love seeing new places. That's pretty extreme, but it's a real thing. There's a lot of people with wanderlust that like to do that. For me, I did a number of years moving from country to country and eventually decided that I had figured out where the right one was for me, and I wanted to be able to settle down with my family and have a little bit more stability, but we still travel heavily. So I was in 11 countries last year, which I didn't even feel like was a lot of travel, but we have a home base in a country that we really love, that's safe and affordable, and we've learned so much about being expats and now being real immigrants here. Those are, like I said, very different things. You do not just become an immigrant just because you visit a country. And it's been so empowering and so an important part of our lives and so encouraging to a healthier lifestyle. Not because Nicaragua is necessarily so much healthier than other places, while that may also be true, but because the act of being an expat empowers you to give yourself a healthier lifestyle. It makes life lower stress in most cases. It makes you have healthier food in most cases. Not because where you're coming from is full of stress and bad food. Maybe that's the case, maybe not. But the act of becoming an expat from anywhere gives you the mental space to have more control over your life and your life decisions, and you tend to de-stress and make more healthy simply by being an expat. So I encourage people to give it a try just because you learn more about yourself and you learn more about the world. But the most important takeaway I want to have today, I don't want to make this a long video, it's already pretty long-winded, but I want to really encourage, especially those in North America, because we're facing all these January challenges, whether it's Canada not having a functional government or the United States going through a huge change, right? We're looking at really unstable, unknown futures in North America. It's an environment that is very scary simply because we don't know what to expect even just a few weeks from now, let alone in the coming years. It's such a volatile environment that a lot of people just want to step away to some place that's maybe a bit more stable, a place that's a bit more known, where they can observe from some distance and make a good decision, right? That's a really important viewpoint to have. Don't think of it as making the decision to move abroad forever. You're just making the decision to move abroad for the moment, and you can stay abroad as long as makes sense, which could be weeks or months or years or the rest of your life if that's what you end up falling in love with and that's the place that's going to meet your needs the best. But for so many people, just stepping away from the problems or the worries or the concerns and watching to see what happens. And it doesn't matter which side of the fence you're on in either country. We have very divisive environments in North America, but both sides are really in this position of feeling apprehension about what's going to happen, because even those that are currently winning in the polls or taking control of the government, we don't know how much control they're actually going to have. Is it going to be a lot? Is it going to be barely any? Is it going to be really effective or not effective at all? We really don't know. And so no matter who you are, you're in this position of just not knowing what to expect. And trust me, living several countries away and being able to observe it from a distance and go like, not my circus, not my monkeys, is a really, really important mental space to just relieve yourself of all that worry. Yeah, I want good things to happen back home. Yeah, I want good decisions to be made and people to be happy and safe and secure and all that. But I also want my family to be insulated from that. And we are. So that's been very, very big of a deal for us. And it could be for you. With that decision that you can do that you have the power to do that today, you can action this right away, step away. And if things go great, exactly as you hope, move right back. That's fine. Don't make a huge commitment that you can't turn around on. Don't sell everything if that's not what you want to do, or you want to have that flexibility. Sell all your stuff and just become a lot more nomadic, even if you decide to return to your home country. A little bit of planning around that's going to go a long way. Not going to go into too many details. My whole point here is to become flexible. Give it a try. Make sure you have your options. Do not refuse to get a passport. Don't burn your bridges or don't fail to build your bridges so that you have no options and you're trapped by your own design. Don't do that. Give yourself the flexibility to make decisions at the last minute. Give yourself the option to move anywhere, anytime, so that you can leverage the power that your country has given you. Give yourself the option to make good decisions for yourself, intentional decisions for yourself. Don't feel that you're trapped. Don't feel that you don't have the power to do this. Don't feel that it's something you have to overcome. It is so easy, so comfortable, so fast and accessible. every one of my audience, if you're in North America or Europe, most anywhere in the world, but definitely if you're anywhere in North America, you have the ability. Just get that passport. If you decide it's time for you to go, you can go. You can do it. Trust me. And there's plenty of countries that will take you without a second thought and are happy to have you while you decide if they're the right place to stay, or decide that somewhere else is the right place to stay, or decide that you want to go back. Thanks for joining me. Like and subscribe. If you'd like to help support the channel, you can buy me a coffee at buymeacoffee.com/Scott Alan Miller. We're going to be doing a bit of this kind of content over the next couple weeks. So please, if you've seen a lot of this before, please don't leave at this time. Stick around, because we're going to be trying to bring in a lot more people, because there's a lot of people really worried right now in North America. There's so much going on that's making a lot of fear happen, a lot of just unknown, and we want to make sure that people know that there are options and things that they can do today, that you can get on a plane with your passport, come to Nicaragua, no questions asked. This is a place where you can start your journey. You do not have to research further if you're just coming with your passport and coming from North America. That's it. Come down, figure everything else out from here. And of course, get down in the comments, ask your questions there, leave your comments, send in video comments. Everything you need is in the show notes, and I will see all of you tomorrow.